Welcome to The Syndicate, a film and TV podcast. Be a part of the conversation as industry insiders, genre lovers, and cinephiles dare to peek beyond the curtains of imagination and dive into the art of cinema. Join us as we want you to spend less time scrolling and more time watching. Now here's your host, Armand and
Hello, and welcome to Cinedicate, where we want you to spend less time scrolling and more time watching. I am your host, Armand Haddad, and welcome to episode 7. This season, we are exploring the hidden gems of films or films you probably passed over watching. Joining me in the studio today is Simone. Simone, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Currently, Simone is a videographer for a tech company here in the Chicago area. Or you probably know Simone from his voiceover work, from Mobile Suit Gundam and Hot Tub Time Machine. But most likely you know him from 2343.
It's a small podcast. I don't know if you know me for that or for any reason at all, but if you want to look it up later, you might find it's just interviews. It's just I just recently added the subtitle no bullshit interviews. So just look it up. Just look at 2343 no bullshit interviews. I ran out of bullshit.
Hey, at least you're being transparent about it.
Yeah, I mean, I still have some bullshit, but I try to keep that mostly to myself. It's
I think we all have a little bit of bullshit inside of us.
Yeah, just hold dearly onto it. Man.
So today we are going to dive deep and discuss the moralities in the business broadcasting and news agency world. For today's episode recommendation is Network. So Simone, what did you think of Network? What were your initial thoughts?
It was such a great movie. It's one of those movies that I meant to watch for over a decade, and it happened just a few months ago. But I used to live in another country when I wanted to watch it, and I thought it was really looking at the future in a way that maybe wasn't understood at the time. I don't know. I wasn't around, but it did have a very clear vision of what merging entertainment and news and politics then would eventually become, and I thought it was very insightful and incredibly contemporary and tied to the present, even though it's a movie from 1976, right?
Oh yeah, mid-70s, and I would say a lot of the things that they talk about in the movie like really hit the hallmarks of like our today's world with like media. And how did you first hear about Network?
Well, the movie Network is called in Italian through a friend of mine. We used to watch movies together in high school and then when we were in college in Italy. The Italian title of that is actually Quinto Potere, which means the fifth estate, the fifth power.
Oh, wow.
And it's a direct homage to Citizen Kane, because the Italian title of that is Fourth Estate, Fourth Power.
Wow.
So, yeah, where does this come from? I don't know if it's like a common idea here in the US, but the separation of powers is pretty common as an idea. The judicial, the base of the democracy, basically. The democracy is based on the separation of powers. So the fourth estate, besides the three fundamental ones, is press and media, because it can influence politics pretty much almost as much as the legislative power, the executive power, the judicial power, but in a more informal way. So Citizen Kane referred to the press and how that influences through business the process of social life, and they call it the fourth estate, and the fifth estate was the title that they choose, Quinto Potere, the fifth power for Network. So I heard it the first time as with that title, and I had no clue that it was just called Network, which I think it's great too. And it was, I think I was in high school, so we're talking about 15 years ago or so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's incredible, because it's so true. Like the press and like the media have so much power and so much influence over the common people that it can be seen as like the fourth and fifth branch of like governments and power, even though it's separated from the governments. And that brings me to your ties to the news world, because in Italy, you were a part of like a news agency of sorts, kind of like, was it like The Daily Show?
Yeah, I actually worked for 3 different newspapers, not just in TV. I started writing satire on a newspaper when I was 22. It was a national newspaper in Italy. And then I started to create videos online for those, satirical political videos for that. And then eventually I started to work for public radio. But yeah, nobody cared about me. But I'm no Howard Beale. Like in the movie, the name of the main character is Howard Beale.
Mm-hmm. Before we really get into today's discussion, the thing we like to do at the Syndicate is called the elevator pitch.
Please stand clear of the closing
So
door.
Simone, you have 60 seconds to pretty much give the entire plot of the movie without major spoilers. So are you ready, Simone?
I am very ready.
Okay. We will start in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, there is this deranged news broadcaster, Howard Beale. He's an anchorman, and someday he just implodes live on air, and he starts to be really angry at the world as it is, and that starts a whole process of uncovering how news and politics and entertainment are all tied together. So we see this man imploding, and we see the powers that like pressure him to keep going, and at the same time not giving up. But will he give up? I don't know. Maybe he will give up, maybe not. He starts, one thing that he does is he goes at the window and he tells everybody watching that they should go at the window and start to yell, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. And that is the most iconic catchphrase, but there is even an even more iconic monologue. Watch the movie.
Damn, with even 3 seconds to spare.
Wow.
That really like envelops the entire premise of the movie. Is like you have this anchorman that's completely disenchanted with his job and becomes so deranged because of certain aspects of his life falling apart, and he just implodes on air, and that's pretty much the driving force of the film and where the film takes you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a good summation. And getting back to the news world, your time at MTV and all those publications overseas in Italia.
Well, for Vigam, it was Comedy Central. Let's put it like this: a person that has much more authority than I might have, I think, it's one of their favorite movies. I discovered Stephen Colbert. This is the favorite movie of Stephen Colbert. And when he was still doing the Colbert Report in 2011, he had an interview with The Atlantic where he explained how Howard Beale, the anchorman in the movie, is the very first man showing you that there is people that want you to know how you should think about things, like what you should think about something. And that is Colbert's point of view. And I think that is very true about the movie. It shows you how you are usually invited to hate something, to be angry at something, to be happy about something, to be totally entertained by something. So that is something that is very present in what you do. And when I used to make political commentary and satire back in Italy, I often found myself between those first viral videos when YouTube was barely a thing and Facebook was just existed for like 2 or 3 years. You quickly start to give somebody not what they need, but what they want. Because if you give people what they want, they will generate views, engagements, and clicks. And ultimately, that's a big goal of any media, because that's how it works. And it's no exception. This is present in Network in 1976. So much that Howard Beale's, this angry man is angry and gets mad on TV. And people get scared and excited about it. And network executives at first are scared because what is going to happen to the investors? What is going to happen to our partners? What are they going to think? How are people going to react? Are they going to hate it? They're going to hate us, not watch it? The opposite happens. The opposite happens because anger and fear and honesty, to some extent, because there is a very good intention, I think, from the character of Howard Beale, that gets engagement, that gets views, and the same mechanism is true in contemporary media. So it was true, I think, for not just me, but whoever is in the business of doing that, including, late night shows that, as we said, this is the favorite movie of Stephen Colbert, but originally he portrayed in the Colbert Report a parody of a news anchorman. I can see how this was his favorite movie because Colbert used to never break out of character, always be in this character of a parody of an anchorman. But you slowly turn into something that is not a parody of it, or trying to denounce, to let people know of what is happening. You turn into a tool, because this mechanism incorporates anger, incorporates fear in the movie, in the metaphor of the movie. And it just becomes another gear of the network system. Eventually, the executives embrace, and some characters don't understand. They embrace this craziness of the man who yells and threatens on TV, and they invest him with the power of being the mad prophet of TV because he tells the truth. But the truth, there is a danger that the truth is more in the manner of saying things than in the content of what is needed to say. And it's an actual truth. So it's a very long monologue to say, yes, I think that from any source that you have in front of you, this is the message of the movie. Ask yourself what the reasons are of what you are consuming, reading or watching. Just why, that is a way to generate a little shield for yourself. Just ask yourself, why am I being presented with this, especially on social media, which is, do you think that social media is part of this fourth and fifth estate, like we said?
Absolutely. I think it's a byproduct of like the evolution of how we receive and transmit news and stories. Like, because in the 70s, where network takes place, the television was like pretty much at its peak, or like becoming a rising star. So everyone was glued to the television set. Everyone was tuned into the news broadcast at like 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever time they had those. So everyone was like glued to the TV. Now everyone's glued to their cell phone. And where do people get their news? Not from like ABC or NBC, like those news packages, but more so the articles or stuff they see on social media that's being tweeted out or being shared on platforms like Facebook. So totally, like people are consumed by the desire to like see what's going on in the world through social media, and it's filtered through the lens of like, I would say, biases or confirmation biases, like stuff they want to see. Like pretty much they're not getting the news objectively, they're getting it through the filters of like whether it's entertainment or partisanship, I would say. So they're getting what they want, but not what they need.
I think that is... What part did you... I don't want to interview about the movie, but it's a chat about the movie. So I'm curious, which part did you like of the movie the most?
Pretty much what I enjoyed from Network was my preconceived, like, I don't want to say preconceived notions, but stuff I heard about the film before. Because my first interaction with Network was, I would say, mid-2000s, when this documentary came out called Zeitgeist, and they used clips from Network, Howard Beale's, the main character's monologues, which is, I'm mad as hell, like everything that you perceive the world to be, like it's false and it's not real, and we should be angry, but we're not being angry. And that really resonated for me as like a teenager. And then, you know, growing up, I didn't really associate it to the movie until years later. I realized, oh, there's a movie, but I never got around to see it until recently. And it's definitely one of those movies where I'm like, I wish I saw this sooner, because it really opens doors, and like it lingers with you in a good way. It makes you think. It makes you think about like the establishments such as like the news or media. And it's like, maybe it's not exactly how I perceive it to be. Maybe it's different. Maybe like, it's kind of like that Shakespeare quote where like the world's a stage and you're just an actor in it. So it's kind of like that.
I don't think that, you know, watching this movie and watching many other like movies, one can fall into the invisible hand of the powers. Like, you know, it's easy to do watching this movie. You're just thinking like, oh, that's how it works. And I don't think, no, I do, because, you know, that is the temptation that the one has. Like, oh, now I think it gives you a perspective and it gives you an idea of some concepts, but it still stays like the universe of the movie. Like it is, there is a monologue by the CEO of the CEOs of the end of the world CEO. Basically, the anchorman pisses off these guys so much, and you know they go like, "All right, but you know what? You have a good audience, so here is a show. Just be mad every night at 8 p.m. and bring us sponsors and partners," which he does. But then he commits a false step. He just takes a bad step and unveils a business deal that is happening between the network owners and, I don't remember, external investors. And that's when he tried to challenge the gods. It's just like, yes. And that that's, you know, that's another part that in that universe, when you reach the monologue, it's a very powerful monologue by the CEO of the CEOs, which is called Jensen, the character, I think. That is one of the parts that you look at and go like, oh wow, that's very true. So like, I get, oh yeah, I see it. But it still stays in the metaphors of the universe, and it becomes very, very powerful. That part, you know, the guy goes like, there are no peoples, there are no nations, there are just corporations. That is the point. And the framing is fantastic.
Oh yeah, because I mean, visually, the framing is like the CEO is like positioned to be like above Howard Beale, so it's kind of like, and that camera angle is from the bottom going up, which implies that he's the dominating force in that relationship, that exchange. Like Howard Beale sees himself as a god, but once he meets the CEO, he's like, oh, I am a god, but not the god. He's like a lesser god, and like the greater god can like smack him down whenever he wants, because he's the CEO. He can like take a show off the air whenever he wants. And Howard Beale definitely sees himself like sees his place.
I think he feels insignificant, not just like a god. I think he feels like, he goes like, oh, you know, it doesn't matter. Even in the framing, like this guy is standing in between, at the end of a desk, in between a row of 1920s Art Deco green lamps, the ones that you always see in Hollywood movie. In every Hollywood movie, there is those green lamps on a table. Yeah. But there is a row of those, and on the opposite side, there is Howard Beale sitting, almost like head between his shoulders in the dark. It's just open mouth and just waiting. And Jensen goes, this man, like, there is no nations, there is no peoples, there is no, and it calms down suddenly and goes like, am I getting through you, Mr. Beale? And then resumes this anger of the wrath of the god, this thing. So it's easy to see this as an explanation of how everything works. I think it's just a version, a satire that shows you how, you know, there are dynamics. They're not always immediately clear, but there is no secret. You go like, now I have a different view. I think these mechanisms are always there to be seen. There is nothing secret. There is nothing unseen. It just takes a somewhat critical spirit to stare long enough to see them. And, you know, who is in the business, I think, does see them, as does Stephen Colbert when does his usual monologues since he took over David Letterman, which are very similar to each other every night at this point, is falling into this mechanism.
And yeah, and side note, with Stephen Colbert, do you think Stephen Colbert, because like in the beginning, like with the Colbert Report, he was like a caricature of a news anchorman. Like, do you think he kind of took on that persona to heart? Because like with his late night show that he took over from David Letterman, like it's very politicized, and he seems to be really tailoring his stuff to his audience instead of like being like putting on a show for people to be like, oh, I like that show. Yeah, I like what he's doing.
Isn't that true? I don't, besides, I recognize, isn't this mechanism true of many outlets, not just Colbert or Fox News or anything? Like, I try to not focus on the specific network or the character. Yes, I think what you're saying exists, as it does in many, many other different shows, different networks. I think it's an overall truth. Yeah, we go back to the opinion servant side of the things and to the echo chamber. When I watch something like that, if it happens to be in front of me, I go like, well, what is the goal of this thing? Again, the shield. You go like, is this to inform me, or is this to make me more engaged through outrage or through... And I think that as long as there is some irony in it, as it was for the Colbert Report, where the Stephen Colbert character never broke character with a real human being, or as it is in Borat. For example, Sacha Baron Cohen is another person who never breaks out of character when he does political satire. So when it's taken through the lenses of doing a caricature of it, I think that paradoxically can become more honest than just trying to pass as natural, but to gather views or to gather engagements. What I try to do, it's this. Is this covered because it matters, or because it needs to generate interest, engagement, views, or is this a partial point of view? Is it a very, very... There is nothing wrong with partial point of views, because those become opinions eventually, right? But are there partial facts in it? Is there a partial reporting of the vision or the fact? That is the difference, because many, many controversial issues have such an incredible amount of different aspects that it's easy to reduce it to make, the immigrants are doing this and that. Well, are they? Or is that just three facts used as a proof, and there is another million realities happening? When
it's confirmation bias.
Yeah. And if it's done consciously, that's manipulation. From a person who is in charge of doing that. And that can be true of the same things. I always find myself contrasting in opinion. I never know how to explain some things, because sometimes controversial facts have multiple fruits at the same time. Let's take something controversial. And again, just theoretically, say immigration. A few years ago, during the early stages of an administration, there was a problem that was like, well, we have an immigration problem. we have an immigration problem with work visas from big tech companies. They're just hiring whoever you want to, to pay them less if they come from elsewhere, and they mostly come from 2 or 3 countries. So the solution is enough, nothing. So the solution is, let's stop everything and destroy it and literally sunset it and make it double hard to do. So that thing has multiple truths to me, because one is like, is that a problem? Yes, it is. It really, really exists as a problem. It's not to say like, well, no, we should have an unlimited. No, it is a problem. And I say this as a person who is, has went through many phases in life and countries. Mm-hmm. So it is. But at the same time, is the solution to just put the shame on everybody given one case and stop everything abruptly in a way that damages families and people in a terrible, 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 terrible way of suffering for people who don't deserve it? No. So what happens with news is just like, oh, this problem doesn't exist. This is terrible. Everything is terrible. And the opposite is just like, well, the hell with suffering. We're just going to destroy and stop everything. Both things are true. It's like, this is a problem. How do we solve it in a known drastic way that ruins everybody's life? It's just like, But it's more interesting, and as it happens in network, to create a case of selling anger. Because then you're angry and you're engaged, and then eventually, depending on what you're reading, if you ask yourself, like, why am I reading that? Because why I might be presented with this material? Because, at the end of the day, partners and sponsors are paying for the clicks and views. So, yeah.
And given the context of network, this movie was released in 1976, so it was filmed in 1975. During the height of the Vietnam War. And a lot of people were very, very angry over the U.S. involvement in, I would say, a meaningless war, a war that the Americans at the time believed we had no business being there. Like, why should we send our boys to die in a land far away? And so that caused a lot of protests and a lot of like anti-establishment movements. I would say it probably kicked off one of the first anti-establishment movements, because like prior to that, like people had a very positive view of the government, and then once the threat of communism and how we dealt with it really put a stinker in a lot of Americans' eyes. And fast forward to today, like with social media, like with the Iraq war and Afghanistan, like people use that platform to, consume hate or as a platform to like express their hatred towards something. So that's why I think network resonated so well during that time, is because like it's kind of like the mirroring effect of like the original context of when it was created. It's like, yeah, people were very angry and people didn't really know what to do or to channel that energy. And then like people watching it today, it's like, oh, I understand that anger now because like I'm angry right now.
Yeah. Anger as value in that movie.
Yeah,
is really
it's currency.
Important. Yeah.
And it resonated so much with like the characters in that movie. And before we really get into the crux of the movie, so it stars a character called Howard Beale, which is played by Peter Finch, and the other characters are Faye Dunaway, who plays a news businesswoman called Diana, and Max Schumacher, who is played by William Holden. So we talked a lot about Howard Beale, and like he really is the heart of the movie. But there are other plot lines going on which interweave with Howard Beale's, rise to power and rise to fame. Mm-hmm. And the movie kicks off pretty much just as your elevator pitch portrays it. Howard Beale's slow descent into madness, and it is personified like the first seed is like, so Howard Beale has a tough personal life, and he like loses his wife, like his whole life is falling apart around him, and his news anchor show is ending. So to announce that he's leaving the show, he I don't even know if it's tongue in cheek, but he's like, so, my last show is going to be next week, and I'm going to blow my brains out on live TV. Like, says it as straight as he could be. And like the news anchor people are like, wait a minute, what did he just say? Did he just say he's going to like kill himself on live TV? And like, so like starting from there, like the views and the ratings like skyrocket for anything to do with Howard Beale, which then leads to not his retirement, but him having his own dedicated show, the Howard Beale Show. And this businesswoman that's spearheaded by Diana really like takes advantage of like people's anger and like people's interest in this guy who becomes kind of like a caricature, like the Colbert Report. Do you see like people like Faye Dunaway's character Diana like in the news world right now?
I think the movie has a bunch of tropes for characters that have been readapted throughout the decades until now in TV shows. So if I think about that, the first one that comes to mind is Newsroom, which is a TV show by Aaron Sorkin. And I think the very opening is a fairly famous scene of Newsroom, the TV show, where Jeff Daniels plays the main character, the main anchorman, being interviewed, just goes on a rant, destroying a college student who just says candidly, not knowing, just, why is America the greatest country in the world? And it just goes on a rant, destroying her. Basically sharing his truth and what he sees as the truth behind the curtain and the scenes. So that is a trope that comes back. And Diane shows as the partner producer of Jeff Daniels' character. So in Newsroom, there is a Diane character. Another show that took that is The Morning Show on Apple TV Plus recently, where Reese Witherspoon's character has a breakdown, also telling the truth, pretty much live on TV. She goes viral. If Howard Beale's character was in the 2010s or 2020s, he would have not been like live on TV show. He would have gone viral. That would have been a clip. I was like, no, that's true. Like that thing was like, hey, seeing Howard Beale like basically implode like live. And there is a Diane character there too, but it's a man in the case of the Apple Newsroom show. So it's an interesting gender reversal of the roles. I think it also shows the difference in times. So I don't know in the real world, I don't know if I can identify that, and I don't live the life of a broadcast network anchorman at all, but I can see that trope coming through, and it's interesting to see how influential it was on news shows. They always have this, the executive that goes like, no, you should not tell the truth. And the anchorman was like, I have no bullshit anymore. I will use the power that I have to talk to 60 million people to tell the truth. And then they go like, all right, the truth gets us views. Keep telling the truth, but not too much truth, just some truth. Which is exactly what happens in the Apple News, the Apple TV, the morning show too. They go like, "We'll tell the truth," and they're like, "Not too much, thanks."
No, that happens in the network too. So I could see that influence rippling through adaptations. But in the network, like as Howard Beale is making his first speech about like how life is bullshit and this and that, and in the background the production team's completely going crazy. There are phones ringing off the hook.
Hey, phones ringing off. Do you know what is one part that I love that made me laugh so hard? I remember It's
What?
like when the phones are ringing off because the guy is like the night after the guy is, or the week after, I don't remember, the anchorman Howard Beale is back on the show and he goes like, "Hey everybody, here's an announcement. I really was insane a few nights ago. But I apologize because I committed an act of madness. But what really happened is I ran out of bullshit. I was just like, it's like, I am sorry. I just, I was live with me. I didn't have any more bullshit. And phones start to ring again. And the CEOs are like, "What is this thing?" And there is always one good producer, like in the other two shows that I mentioned to you, that goes like, "Well, he's saying that life is bullshit and it's the truth. So what are you screaming about?" Bang! And bangs the phone on the receiver. It's just like, and a 70s secretary who is very minute and cute. She goes like, "Mr. Something is trying to get a hold of you," and you're like, "I will not take this call. Truth is happening and history is happening." So, sorry, this is my,
No, that was the point I was going to make, because like that line is like so perfect.
Yeah. He's saying life is bullshit. He's right, life is bullshit. So what are you screaming about? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of true. And it's a line with it gets easier if you stop like, doesn't it get easier when you drop the bullshit? I feel like that
It's so much easier.
It gets so much easier.
It's like you see what life actually is, like through the lenses of all these like BS. It's like, okay, it's like, what are we doing? What kind of world are we building? It's like, let's just be authentic.
So I feel, here is the way that I can see it towards like, being less. I understand the mechanisms that I was trying to. Do you like the bullshit? This is like the end game question of this movie to me is just like, there is a lot of bullshit going on. And I said bullshit about 52 times, so I hope you put the explicit tag on iTunes. But it was like, if you like it, that's fine. As long as you know it, keep scrolling Instagram all day and presenting grilled cheese sandwiches as so blessed, so grateful for this perfect day of cheese sandwich. Sometimes it's great. Like I love grilled cheese. I think it's one of the most perfect things in the world.
Hey, grilled cheese is great.
Yeah, right. It's and that is the truth of it. But do I need to constantly share how grateful I am about grilled cheese, or about how angered I am about? I don't need that news most of the times when I scroll through. I don't want to know about it. I honestly do not want to know about many things. I feel like sometimes the pressure of like I get easily into I will read 1 million articles per day, but I'm trying to make it be mostly opinions there are on a blog of people that sometimes also have a different view from mine. And that makes things easier because you're not reading the title like, "Here's 10 ways to make your glass of water more interesting during quarantine."
Wait till you see number 7.
Yeah, it's numbers. Yeah, it's like 7 ways to. And it's like, I don't like, or like
hate this guy.
Yeah, right. 7 ways the doctor killed this person. The same person. Like those things. It's like that kind of advertisement that was like, "Oh, I'll get him to click on this link." It's just like, here is how the China, South America presidents hate red, blue partisan I don't know what I'm saying. It's just this blob of words that are like, I hate those people.
Yeah, it's important to see viewpoints from like other ends of the aisle, and then you can see
do
like,
that?
okay, it's hard, but yeah, I try to do it.
How do you force yourself? It's hard. How do you?
Because it's so time consuming. Because it's like, okay, you have for example, in America, we have the left and the right and independent, but no one wants to talk about them. So you have like the left leaning media companies, then you have the right-leaning media companies. So you have to listen to both those companies, what they're saying, and then you have to decipher, okay, what's the through line, what's the median, like what are the overlapping features, and that's the truth.
Can you usually? I find it incredibly hard because there is like so many layers.
Oh yeah.
That I just go like, I don't know.
Yeah, you have to get through like their biases and then what agenda they're trying to push, and it's like, oh, okay. It's much easier, and the majority of people subscribe to this method is, okay, here's my one show that I like. He's saying exactly what I like, and I'm just going to listen to that and form my opinion and then parrot that opinion when I'm asked about those issues. And it's like, which is easier? It's like, one's better for you.
Yes.
But people take the easier route.
Stop following it. Just stop following it. It's very rare that I read an article that I usually like. I go like Bloomberg. I'm like, ugh, it's just like I don't. It's Bloomberg.com. I go, but not for my. This was before my. I come from a country where in my life, Mike Bloomberg was never a politician. It was just the guy who had Bloomberg.com. That's all it was for me. I usually saw in Italy there was like, and this is the financial news in cooperation with Bloomberg. It was like that. That was it. There was
or Forbes. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the equivalent of. Well, I don't want to put too much glitter on Bloomberg, but it was just like somebody like financialtimes.com. That's the kind of thing, and I just try to limit. Let's be honest. I try to limit the amount. I not just like I will never open Fox and New York Times. I will. But I try to go like, maybe I had enough for today. It's just like I have so much pressure. It's just like,
it's tiring.
Yeah,
and people because like they all have their thing. Like in people like, okay, so Howard Beale, like people gravitate towards him because like he articulated what the American people were feeling.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
He denounced the hypocrisy of their time. Yeah. And, like, I would say the contemporary version or like an aspect of like the person that's like...
Who's that?
I would say specifically with news is Donald Trump. Like, regardless what you say about him or what people say about him.
Oh, man.
Is like, he called a spade a spade. He was like, fake news. You have fake news.
Yeah,
it's like,
okay.
Everyone felt that way. No one said it.
Yeah, but you know why that doesn't hold up for me? Because even if I can, let's say I can get to agree to that, the point is, just like Colbert, well, not just like Colbert, more than Colbert, well, the man plays that same kind of show himself.
Oh yeah,
but see, I just here is the thing, I will not take like an eye opening from the person who's closing them at the same time, just in a different way or technique. So I don't think you kind of do an equation and you balance it out and it's worth nothing, because even if that was the case, that is his bread and butter. Like that is. And not just for him, that is a very common technique for Howard Beale. Howard Beale becomes also part of that system. So let's take actual politicians out of the equation. You got a really good point. The person who denounces what is happening then becomes a prophet, a mad prophet of the thing that is happening itself. Why? Because there is a correction, an error correction mechanism. Saying the thing how it is or how he perceives it, because honestly, there is no truth. At least for me, I don't see that what Howard Beale says as the truth. So, but saying something that is non-conventional eventually gets absorbed and corrected to be uniform with the same mechanism that generated it. So I think that is also what drives Beale towards real desperation, because he then sees that whatever he thought he was the truth was nothing else but another part of the mechanism. And in this way, you can also picture yourself the very famous like Charlie Chaplin image of the man ending up in the middle of the gears in the same way. And this is also a theme that is taken by countless other shows, right? There is, when you said that, another thing that came to mind is the original series of Black Mirror, season 1, 2013, was still a Channel 4 show in England. So when it wasn't a Netflix thing that just goes like, we live in a simulation. Oh no. That is Black Mirror, last 3 seasons, simulations, oh no. So before that, there is an episode with a guy who lives in this future society where they bike every day to produce energy, and then they go back to their room/pod where they sleep, and they have, I guess that's it. They all sleep and they brush their teeth, which is just made of screens which are advertisement, and they get credits. The more they bike, the more credits they have to buy things, even including removing advertisement from their own living pod. So this guy at some point is just like, I hate all of this. There is a way to get out of this, and it's a reality TV show. If I win that, I am free. Not just that, he gets there and he pulls a Howard Beale there, and he goes like, "Hey judges, here is the truth, and you can't stop me because I have this thing." The brilliance from that moment when the guy on stage takes up the stage to tell the truth to the masses is that a judge of this reality show just starts to go like, clap and go like, fantastic performance. Like, fantastic performance. I'm offering you a show on my channel. And he goes like, well, I can become a celebrity and get out of the pot and get a show. So he just every day does the same monologue over and over. That's also, I think, very close to Network, where he becomes, the corrective part of what happens. And, it's, so is the movie itself. The movie itself, we're talking about it right now, but what it is, if not another way for us to observe the reality of the things. If it's not, the movie itself is a critique, but it is, at the end of the day, just the same mechanism. Wow, so much
really
wisdom. So much wisdom.
Yeah. And that also reminds me of a very small but hilarious subplot, which is Diana, in conjunction to launching the Howard Beale show, she was also, before she discovered Howard Beale, she was trying to push the envelope with TV. She wanted to get a syndicated TV show that, similar to like a war show, like FBI or MASH or whatever, but it was centered around the communist or this very specific liberation front that produced their own so they would rob a bank or commit some crime, but they would videotape it. And she was like, at the start of every show, we're gonna show the real footage and then do a dramatization, like a narrative version, and that would be the show. And so the point of that subplot is she's trying to get this real revolutionary outfit to be these board members or this consulting group for this TV show. And it's funny because every time you see them, they're in a rundown house, and they're oh, we're gonna take it to the man, defeat the capitalist machine, this and that, power to the people. But we also want network rights, and we can't have people infringe upon our TV show, and I need a bigger share of the profit. It's oh boy, oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah, that
they
was
become
really
the
funny.
thing. Yeah, they become the thing that they're fighting against, and that's kind of like the running theme of all these shows. Is they have good intentions in the beginning, and then they become the very evil that they're fighting against.
Because even when you try to drop the bullshit, there's still more bullshit. It's gonna come out.
It's true. It's so true.
No, it's overall it's a really nice movie, and it's one of those that help you have a little bit of critical thinking, and it's really enjoyable and well done.
Yeah. And before we sign off, we like to do the thing at Syndicate called One Reason Why. So what is one reason why you would recommend this movie for somebody to watch?
If you are interested in bullshit and dropping it and seeing how it is constant throughout 4 or 5 decades, just watch it. If you're interested in seeing how 4 decades ago there was as much as we have now, watch Network.
Right. Same BS, different time.
Yeah, different characters, same bullshit.
Time does not change. We deal with the same crap all the time. And the reason for me, I would say, is similar to what we've been espousing for the past episode, which is it makes you look at life differently, and it opens your eyes to like things that you wouldn't notice. It kind of like makes you see the world differently in whatever way that is.
Namaste.
Namaste. And before we go, where can people reach you or 2343?
2343 No Bullshit Interviews is on 2343.org, 2343.org, or any podcast app that you want. Honestly, you can ask your Sonos, you can ask your Alexa, you can ask your, you can download the RSS feed. I don't care. Just go there. There is lots of full transcripts, also of 50 minutes long chats. There is an entire transcript, so you can also read it on 2343.org.
Excellent.
That's it for this time on The Syndicate. We hope you enjoyed yourself. Keep the conversation going by adding us on Instagram and Letterboxd, where you can catch Armand along other podcasters and listeners at Syndicate. And until next time, stop that scroll and spend more time watching. Goodbye.